Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mad Duck Tales. I'm your host, Victor Shear, former paratrooper, bear guide, traveling nurse, homesteader, bank robber, prisoner, now turned podcaster. While I was locked up, I wrote a lot of stories, and on this podcast, we're going to read them. Today's story is the special. Now, there's something I need you to put in your head as I read this. It's about me and an old man. His name is Mr. Crabtree, and he had end stage lung cancer and COPD. So when he spoke, he could only speak like one, maybe two words at a time, and then he would take a breath. So I'm not going to do that in here because we'd never get done. But as I tell the story, I will stop and maybe do a couple spots like that. Okay, here we go, the special. It was 2007, and I had taken a job at a hospice center, working nights 11 to 7. On this particular night, I remember I had 3 patients, 2 ladies and 1 man, a Mr. Crabtree. I had taken care of the ladies, and I was on my way in to see Mr. Crabtree. The first thing I noticed when I entered the room, this being a hospice center, is that they had let him bring in his own dresser and stuff like that. And on this dresser, there was a Marine Corps symbol, but there was a photograph. And I got to assume the guy in the photograph was a younger version of Mr. Crabtree. And he had his shirt off, and it looked like kind of jungle setting or something construction. But what I noticed most about the photograph and the man is the look on his face. He looked miserable, super miserable, man. Okay? So I come in, I introduce myself. I say, "Hi, I'm Victor. I'm your nurse." I said, "I noticed you were in the Marines. My brother was in the Marines. I was in the Army." It kind of gives me this grunt. I said, "Well, I was in the Airborne." Gives me another grunt. I said, "Well, I would have joined the Marines, but I scored too high on the ASVAB." So with that, he kind of gives me a chuckle. It loosens up. Ever since Guadalcanal, World War II, there's kind of been this feud between the Army and the Marines. And the Marines are great guys, great fighters. So I sit down next to him. I said, "Do you need anything?" He says, "Yeah, I need a time machine." What are you, stupid? So, "Well, I don't have a time machine. What, I got narcotics." He says, "You take them." I said I would, but then that would be the Army stealing from the Marines again, and they're all sick of that. So he points to his dresser. I go over to his dresser, the bottom drawer. I open it, I rummage around. He's got a bottle of wild turkey. I bring it over, I sit next to him, and hospice at that time, this is the weirdest thing. If you're ever sick or if you're ever in the hospital and they give you a blue Dixie cup, get out of there because that's a bad sign, man. So there were these little blue Dixie cups, and I poured him some, and I poured me some, not a lot. And I sit down, and he says, "Yo," and this part I will read to you. He says he wants to tell me a story. I want to tell you a story. The war. A confession. So that's how long it took to talk to this guy. It was like that. So he says he wants to tell me a story, kind of a confession. I said, "Well, I'm not a priest, I'm a nurse. I'm not even that great of a nurse." Says it doesn't matter. I said, "Go ahead," and we start drinking. Okay, it's Korea. He's a very young man. He's up on a hill one night, the Chinese come, 100,000 of them. He's got a water-cooled 30 cal, and he's just shooting them as fast as he can. When they get close, he falls back to another hill, and he does it again. At some point, he just can't do it anymore. He gets blown up. Next thing you know, Mr. Crabtree wakes up. He's leaned up against some, I don't know, debris and stuff, and a young Chinese soldier is trying to pour water into his mouth, wake him up. And above him, there's a Chinese officer who makes it perfectly clear you can either get up and walk with us, or you can stay here and die. Mr. Crabtree gets up. He's a little banged up, but he gets up, starts walking with the Chinese. Next day, he's walking with the Chinese. A pair of Army Corsairs come over. That's an airplane from Baba Black Sheep left over from World War II. They see a bunch of Chinese. They go down, shoot them up, and they drop napalm, blow everybody up. Well, in this chaos, Mr. Crabtree was blown up and burned by the napalm, but in the chaos, he was able to get away. So Mr. Crabtree gets away. Now he's just running through the jungle and all that woods. He said he was able to get water out of mud puddles, but he's starving. The problem is the napalm has burned his left arm and his left elbow, and he smells like cooked meat. You know, at first it doesn't, but after a couple of days, he's starving, and all he can smell is his pork chop laying right there. So he starts breaking off pieces of his skin and arm and eating them. And this goes on and on. After a couple of days, he said he'd cleaned his arm, he'd eaten it all. Just about then, he stumbles into a patrol of Marines out looking for a shot down helicopter. They bring him back to base. He goes to the hospital, gets out of the hospital. He's still in pretty rough shape. He's not ready for the front lines. So they give him a job driving around an interpreter. One day, there's nothing much going on. He tells the interpreter, I'm starving. Is there any place we can get some meat? Interpreter says, yes, there's safe meat, but not good meat. I said, what do you mean? Can you eat it? Guy said, yeah. Now remember, this is going back in broken English and broken Korean. He says, it's just not good, I said, is it safe? He says, yeah. He says, look, let's just go get this meat. Let's go get this thing. What is it called? He says, you go there, ask for the special. He says, all right, let's go get the special. They drive way out in the outskirts of Seoul. They come to this ratty ass, refugees all over the place on one side. And on the other side, there's this ramshackle building. They got a generator running, so there's on and off lights and something. Mr. Crabtree goes in, sits down. Girl comes to take the order, talks to the interpreter, blah, 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 blah. Here's the interpreter tell the girl he wants a special. Girl was all freaked out. They kind of go back and forth, back and forth. Mr. Crabtree thinks it's about money, so he takes out his money, throws it down, says, bring me the special. Girl takes the money, walks off, comes back, gives him some warm, flat beers. Walks off. So Mr. Crabtree's there looking out the window and stuff. Sure enough, he sees that old waitress run across the road going to that refugee camp. I think, no, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. He didn't, he starts thinking about it. He didn't see any livestock around. He didn't see any even chicken pens or anything. There's no power, so there's no refrigerator. So he sees kind of a commotion. People come up something. Here comes that waitress. She comes back in. He says, okay. He sits there, man. About 20, 30 minutes later, special comes. They sit the bowl down. Mr. Crabtree looks at it. He said the longest piece was about this long, and there would be like 2 inches of meat and then like an inch of bone on each end, and you could tell it was clipped. And some of it might have been rib, but it was just so small. He just didn't know, but he was hungry, so he takes it. He's just about to eat it. He says, it's the smell. I said, well, what do you mean? Smell bad? So, smell rotten? I said, no. I said, well, what did it smell like? He said, it smelled like me. I said, well, you didn't fucking eat it, did you? So, just kind of stared ahead at the TV, which wasn't on. I said, well, you didn't eat it, did you? Kind of stared off. I said, war. I said, what? Are you two drinking? Right then, a CNA comes in. Victor, you'll need it for something. I get up and leave. I'm like, fuck. I leave, take care of what I gotta take care of. I come back. Mr. Crabtree appears to be asleep. Well, I can't wake this guy up. I don't talk to him for the rest of the night. I come in the next day, take my orders. Mr. Crabtree's dead. I said, Mr. Crabtree's dead. Dude, that dude was, I don't say this, but I'm thinking that dude was a cannibal. I needed to talk to him. Says daughter Morgan's in there packing everything up. I said, his daughter? Well, I got to go in there. I got to see this Morgan girl, man. Her dad's a monster. I got to see what she looks like. I go in there. I meet Morgan. Terrific young lady. Perfect skin. Nice blonde hair. Great, great girl. I said, hey, I was talking to your dad. She's like, oh, yeah. I hope he didn't give you too much trouble. I said, no. We were talking about I was in the army. And she says, oh, the army. I hope he didn't give you too much of a hard time. I said, nah. He was telling me about the war. She stops. I see her get these. I could tell by, she wasn't looking at me, but I could tell by the muscles on the back of her neck that she was smiling. She said, my dad was never in the war. I said, what are you talking about? What about this picture? She grabs the picture. She's like, this was taken in Hawaii. My dad kept this because this is the last day he ever drank. The hangover was so bad. I don't know what my dad told you, but he never left Hawaii. The old man played a trick or just lied or did whatever. There was no dead babies. There was no trauma in Korea, nothing like that. He was just trying to get the best of me, which he did, because I thought about that a lot. That's my story. Anyways, that's the special. Truth of the matter is, it's kind of true, kind of not. And most importantly, that story is dedicated to Morgan. Number one, I did have a patient who was in the Korean War and told me that crazy story about shooting all those people. Number two, I did have a patient who did play a trick on me and then die. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this special. Thank you. Goodbye.